Welcome back to another episode of the Humble Hustle Podcast.
Hello, hello.
We are your hosts, Nick Jones and Kayla Ebner.
How's everybody doing? Feeling good?
Well, I'm doing good.
I'm doing great.
No one else here, but I'm great.
I'm doing great.
What are we talking about today?
So today we're going to talk a little bit about our process in terms of from start to finish. How do we get clients? And for
Pretty
both
much.
of us, like this has evolved a lot since the beginning when we started our own businesses. Especially for me, I feel like I had no clue what I was doing. I'm still not nearly where I want to be. I think it is something that is constantly evolving in general, but also evolves from client to client, if you think about it,
Yeah.
in
for
terms
sure.
of different, whether you're reaching out to a person for a wedding client or a business, restaurant, gym, lawyer's office, etc. So this is a really kind of complicated process, and we're just going to go into a little bit of detail about kind of how we started out and tell you where we're at now.
Okay, yeah.
We
So
can dive right in.
to dive right in,
Let's go.
there are a few ways to get clients, get leads.
Mm-hmm.
If you're fortunate enough to have inbound leads, awesome.
Love that for you.
Great for you. Love that for you. Couldn't be us.
Couldn't be us. Sometimes.
Yeah, every once in a while.
Yeah.
I'll get an inbound lead. That's awesome. Because those are like, they want to work with you.
Yes.
If they're reaching out first, that's like,
Yeah, there's
cool.
no question in
People
it.
like me.
Love that. Yes.
So unfortunately, doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
So I have kind of structured my business around outreach and like outbound leads. So it is a lot of work. I will say that from the beginning here. Takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of time, but it's time that I personally am willing to put in. A lot of people aren't. So it really just depends on like the strategy that you want to approach things with. And then in terms of outreach, there are then a bunch of ways to go from there.
Oh, yeah.
So I prefer email outreach. There's like cold calls. There's a bunch of other stuff. I tried cold calling, didn't like it. So basically what I was doing initially was I was trying to be smart with cold calling. Because, when you're talking to someone, you can script out as much as you want, but you can't predict exactly what this person's going to say. So what I tried to do was create these like cold calling scripts for myself that basically were a bunch of if then statements of like, if they say this, then I say this. And it was a bunch of like forking paths of this big diagram that I created for myself of like blocks of text. So like, okay, if they say this, here's my line. But if they say this, here's the line I should say. So it's like, it was a lot of time of like thinking about all these options of what these people could potentially say. And then what's my counter to what they're saying.
Yeah.
So much effort, so much time to put into that, only to like barely use it because I hate cold calling.
Yep.
Is it effective? It can be. Because, talking to someone verbally on the phone is like direct point of contact. It's like very,
You
it's
can get tones across.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. That being said, just because I don't like doing it, I choose not to do it.
There you go.
So I lean heavy on email outreach. And like that's where I've kind of built Ascend Studios off of. So basically I have this Google sheet that I've organized all my outreach information onto. I keep track of like the business, the industry, the location of where it is, all the emails associated, the phone numbers associated with them. And then it's like, did I email them? Did I DM them? What was my type of outreach? I have sent well over 1,000 emails in the last 6 months. So many emails.
That's
And
a lot.
the other thing is I don't automate anything, which, okay, is good and bad.
Yep.
The only reason I have not automated anything is because I've had bad experiences with automation things where when I do it, it sends it to their spam.
Same. Yeah.
And that's my biggest
Sometimes,
fear because of the fact that all my outreach leans on email outreach. If I'm sending all these emails, but they're just going to people's spam, it's a
Such
waste
a waste
of my time.
Yeah.
So to avoid that, for me to like 100% know that it's not going to go in their spam, I hand type every single email, customized every single time.
Yep.
It takes me a long time, but I do it and it works.
Yep.
So the conversion rate might not be amazing, but I have definitely gotten a handful of clients by doing this. So like,
Yep.
I don't plan on stopping until, you know, maybe I'll start stopping maybe if I get to a point where
You're not
my
necessarily-
current clients are like taking up too much time for me to outreach anymore.
Yes.
But right now, I'm still willing to do it.
Yep. Or until maybe, you know, you've gotten enough word of mouth leads.
Yeah.
Like once
Yeah,
you
yeah.
start building up that client base, oftentimes like the outreach, it starts to come to you a little bit more.
This
But
is where I've been unlucky though.
Yeah.
In terms of like the word of mouth. And
It's
I say
hard.
unlucky because everyone says this, right? Like, oh, how'd you get your clients? Oh, I don't really do outreach. I just rely on word of mouth. And I'm like, well, lucky you. It doesn't work
Yeah.
for me. And I
Yeah.
was trying to think, what am I doing wrong? I'm nice to my clients. I like treat them well and everything. Always end on a good note. Everything's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
What I saw as bad luck was the simple fact of like people I've worked with in the past, like a couple years ago and stuff, just aren't the type of people to spread my name out. They have nothing against me, but they're just not the type of people to be like, oh, you should check out so-and-so.
Yeah.
Or maybe they don't have other like business owner friends. So like they
Right.
have no one to spread it to.
yes.
That's just my thoughts of like why I didn't really experience word of mouth.
Yeah.
So now I make even more of an effort to focus on the client experience and to make sure I'm doing everything in my power to make sure that they have nothing but good things to say about me.
Right. I also feel like it's tough because you and I work with so many different kinds of businesses and people. So even if, like, I would argue that none of our clients have had a bad experience working with us, but even if they've had such great experiences, they might be so much of like a niche business or a different kind of business where they don't necessarily like have people in the same realm to even tell
Yeah.
about you.
Yep.
So that's another thing is like we're not really focused in on one specific type of business. We are working with a multitude of different kinds of companies and people. So there's no like one specific process that we use for every single client. Like every client's different.
Yeah.
So that also makes it tough. And I agree with you. In the beginning, when I first started the business, I did the same thing. I had a spreadsheet with all of the businesses I wanted to reach out to in the area. And I was doing, I would look at like websites and Instagram pages of places that I thought maybe could use some photo and video. And I would reach out via email or I would DM the people on Instagram. Like DMs have converted a couple clients for me.
Yep.
The only other thing that's important, though, if you're DMing people, is to make sure that you open up that line of communication. And you and I have talked about this before, because if you DM someone and they don't follow you back, it goes into their requests and they might
Exactly.
not ever see it.
Yep.
So the secret to this, I've found, is reacting to their stories
Yes.
first.
Yep.
I do that. I will interact with their content. I'll like the posts, I'll comment,
If you
and then you
comment,
interact to
yeah.
the stories. Then they might like your reaction, and then that
That's
opens
all
up
you
the
need.
DMs,
That's
open the
all you need.
floodgates.
Yeah.
Get in those DMs, girl. Slide in. That's what I do.
No, for sure. Like I've
Yeah.
done that too. And I do less DM outreach than email, but I
Yeah.
still have like on my spreadsheet at the very bottom, I have like an Instagram DM section. And
Yeah.
it's proven to work also. I had gotten a client from DM outreach.
Yes.
But yeah,
But
the most important thing
emails-
is opening the
open
DMs.
that DM. But yeah, I think my first real round of outreach, I reached out to like probably 100, maybe over 100 people and businesses, and maybe got 2 yeses.
Yeah. I mean,
That's reality.
the conversion rate of outreach, cold outreach specifically, is not high. You need to understand that going in.
Yep.
Do not set super high expectations. You will disappoint yourself.
Yes. And that's okay.
Yeah. Understand that it's going to take time. It's going to take volume. That's my
Yes,
biggest thing. Why do you think
volume
I
is
send
so
1,000 emails?
And it takes a lot of time too. I would separate it, every day, a couple hours I would spend doing that kind of outreach. And
Yep.
I did the same thing that you did. I mean, I had a little bit of a template for emailing and a script-ish, but I did customize it. And we were talking earlier, a huge difference is doing the research on the place that you're reaching out to. A lot of the
Absolutely.
businesses that I was reaching out to in the beginning, I knew because they were in my town. So I had that advantage. But if I didn't know something, or if I wanted to know a little bit more, even like the owner's name or who's involved with the company and what they specialize in, like learning those things about them. And what I do now is I make sure I go to the place. I'll get into this a little bit later, but I've recently moved to a different area. So I will go, and specifically restaurants, I will go visit the restaurant. And then in my email, I'll be like, I just visited your restaurant and I
Yeah.
absolutely loved it. I had a fantastic experience. Our waiter X was great. I'll drop the waiter's name.
That's good. That's
Like,
really good.
You want to be able to relate to it. And about the phone call thing, I also hate cold calls because I feel so much more salesy in a phone call. And if that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
Rather
that's
than an
true.
email.
For sure.
So I totally agree with you on that front. Like emails, DMs, the way to go.
I feel like it's also just like my introverted self would rather hide behind the computer screen.
I don't mind talking to people because I feel like I'm relatable and I'm personable. So I feel like when I do get the chance to talk to someone, I feel like it kind of goes well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless,
I mean, I like talking to them, and like,
yeah.
we'll get into this later. I like having the hard conversations and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I feel like just the innate thing in me is like, yeah, I would prefer to start off by just being
Yes.
behind my computer real quick.
Yeah. And I think it's less pressure on the other person too. I think it's a lot less scary for both parties involved. So, yeah. So, in your experience, I don't know what to say right now. What's your process? Like, what's your process for getting a new client?
Yeah.
Like, start to finish. Like, walk me through it.
Okay. For those of you watching, I'm going to be holding my laptop because I actually wrote like notes and I don't want to deviate from my note cards.
Yes.
So so I make sure I, hit everything. So like I said, I start off, this is actually ironic because I just had like a coaching call yesterday that
Fun.
talked about similar stuff, me essentially teaching someone this process.
Okay.
So start off by finding the clients. Do whatever you need to do. I like Google Maps. I go on Google Maps, zoom in all the way. And when I say all the way, I mean like as far as it will go, because that's the way you can tell like any business that's registered with Google will show up when you zoom in all the way. Pick a street and literally just drag yourself down the street.
Drag yourself down the street. Drag yourself.
Drag yourself down the street of Google Maps and make note of literally every business you see that you think you could work for.
Mm-hmm.
Click into them. It does not take long to just know if they're a potential client or not.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is click into their website. Within 5 seconds, you should know the answer.
Yep.
If you think they're good, all right, great. Copy their website into your little sheet, keep them on for later, move on.
Mm-hmm.
This process is only for creating the list of people. So after like 30 minutes of scrolling through Google Maps, you should have like 50 or more. It's
Yeah.
very easy to find a lot on Google Maps quickly.
Yep.
So once I have those, I do my email outreach. I go through the list, send these emails. Are they templatized? No, to an extent. Like I keep them as short as I can, but I basically separate it into 3 lines. The first line is essentially templatized. It's like, hi, my name's Nick Jones. I'm this in the greater Boston area, hoping to reach out to connect with you about blah, blah, blah. That's essentially the same every single email. Then the middle 1 or 2 sentences, that's where you throw in that personal touch, that customized bit that you would know by now after you do the research of looking into their website. So say they have great website content, but their Instagram content is clearly like an iPhone only stuff and like iPhone pictures, no videos. Say that to them. Say like, after looking at your website and social media, I noticed that on your website, you have some great professional content. Compliment them. If they're doing something good, tell them.
Yep.
Looks great. Awesome. However, that's when you basically tell them what their problem is.
Yes. And how you can solve it.
And then it's like, I'd love to schedule a quick chat to, discuss potentially working with you to elevate your social media marketing and introduce video content to your social media feed, something like that. Once you send out this outreach email, if they respond and they're interested, the first thing I would do is get them on a phone call as soon as possible. Do not risk back and forth email communication in the beginning because that runs the risk of miscommunication, potentially just being ghosted.
Yep.
Get them on a phone call as quickly as possible. And I say phone call instead of like a Zoom call or video call solely for the convenience factor. Like when I think of the clients, I want to make it as easy for them as possible.
Yeah.
I might be sitting in front of my laptop ready to go for a Zoom call. They might be like in their car or running an errand or something. But if they can just schedule a quick phone call and pick up their phone, which they have on them, it's a lot easier for them.
Agreed.
So once they have that, I kind of run through a loose script of what I call a discovery call, the first call with the client. And I have like base questions that can essentially be used across the board for every business that are fairly generic just for me to get to know their business, what their goals are. But then again, based off your prior research, you should then, in addition to those base questions, have like additional customized questions that you formulated.
Yep.
So run through your base questions, run through the customized questions. And then this is where it can get controversial, talking about budget. Kayla and I were talking off the mic of like having these conversations. Budget is arguably the hardest conversation to have with clients. It's uncomfortable. It can be awkward, but I love it.
You're a freak.
I didn't used to, but I feel like just now that I'm so confident in myself and I've learned a lot in the last like 8 months or so of techniques, words I should be saying, the verbiage, I'm more confident in my abilities now than ever. So when I approach these tough conversations, I am excited about them. I'm like, I can't wait to talk to money because even if it's uncomfortable for them, I'm like all in and excited for it. So
awesome.
I'm not saying this is the right way to do it. It's just the way that I do it. So a lot of people don't like talking money on the first call. That's fine. That works for some people. I'm just going to tell you why I do what I do. I talk money on the first call because if I don't, my process, if I didn't, would be to, okay, let me just like create this little proposal, write this all up, put it in nice, send it over to them with like, pricing options or something. They would then review that with their team for like, I don't know, spend 5-6 days reviewing it. 10 days later, they'll get back to me only to say no. And that's me wasting my time creating that document. That's me wasting my time 7 to 10 days just waiting for them, only for them to say no. And I would rather not waste 10 days of my life and waste these initial 30 minutes of my life on this discovery call to get that yes or no answer right here, right now.
Yep. That's a good point. Respect.
So we will, in a future episode, kind of dive into those tough calls, like the tough discussions about money, the budget. It's a little too in-depth to go into on this episode. We're trying to keep it fairly surface level, but comments or whatever in their social media stuff if you want to hear, a more deep dived episode on that. So then step 2, after that is kind of sending over that content proposal. So let's say we talked the money, we decided on something, they're good with it. I then take the deliverables we talked about, take the budget that we discussed roughly, put it all in writing. Everything we talked about on the phone goes in writing in a nice formatted content proposals, what I'll call it. And it's just to show them visually what we discussed and to confirm in writing what we discussed. So again, avoiding all chances of miscommunication.
Yep. Transparency.
Then is a Zoom call. So after the phone call, I want to hop on a video call. So once they can review those written deliverables and everything again, the next week or something, we'll hop on a video call to then discuss, a little more of the logistics of moving forward and really what it would be like to work together. And then right after that Zoom call is when I send over the contract, because that Zoom call is essentially the final confirmation that, okay, we're ready to go, ready to work together, time to sign the contract. So then right after that, contract is over, invoice is sent over, signed, initial deposit paid, and we're ready to go. So then, depending on when the shoot is, I'll schedule like a final phone call. So it's super quick of like confirming the timeline of the day, whatever other logistics might be needed. If I'm bringing on an assistant or anything, I'll let them know on this call, like, oh, by the way, Kayla's going to be helping on this day, blah, blah, blah. Just to let them know like what to expect.
For sure.
And then, a couple days later, it's the actual production day. And then from there, it's just like fairly straightforward, be confident, be a leader on the set, delegate where you need to. And trust your team and go about the production.
Yeah. I think it's great that you feel so confident that you can discuss the budget right away. And that's something that I think I would like to bring into my process a little bit, because I'm not necessarily on that level of comfort yet where, and we'll get into this as well, but I do have some base packages that I've found that a lot of my clients will be interested in, especially if, it's a similar type of client, like a restaurant. I've worked with a few and they're all interested in like a very similar style of social media content. So I have packages that I will kind of send over for them to look at. And then if it's not exactly the right fit, I'll create a custom quote for the client.
Yep.
So it's interesting to me that you do talk budget, and I get why, because, people will definitely delay if they're on the fence. That's just giving them another reason to delay even further if they don't have the budget.
I've learned to value, for both the client and myself, efficiency and what's the word? There's another word I was about to say, but I forget. But efficiency.
Yeah. Yep.
I want to make sure that, if we're working together, let's do it.
Yes.
If you don't want to, please just tell me.
That's totally fine. Yeah, 100%. I think my process is from the outreach to the email is like very similar to yours. In the beginning, when I started this business, I had zero sales experience. I don't consider myself to be a salesy person. I don't ever want to trick someone into working with me. I'm not trying to be like a car salesman out here. That stuff kind of made me uncomfortable. So what I did was I invested in a course on the content creator community, where it was a sales course that kind of walked you through step by step, scripts and how to land a client and all of that. And it was great. And I learned a lot from that. And one thing I did was I think I kind of took it a little bit too literally, because it's a great process and it worked well for me to kind of get me to have those conversations in the first place and not be so nervous when talking to a new client or a potential client. But it's also, there are parts of it that are very specific. And the first time I ever used it was with a client from the town that I grew up in. They're called Fazio's Ristorante. Fazio's Ristorante. Ristorante. It's the greatest little Italian pizza joint ever. And
I do love Italian.
I love it. And it's just it's such a family favorite in the area. And I had emailed the owner, Aldo, and he accepted and he was like, let's meet up. So I actually did an in-person meeting with him. And I had practiced so much before that. I practiced the script. I practiced everything I would say. Like you kind of said, the if-then statements of, if he says this, then I'll say this.
Yep.
And he is the most very casual, laid back kind of guy. that it almost like he foiled my plan. He foiled it. And it really taught me in that moment. It ended up working out. He was one of my first clients.
Okay, there we go.
Starting from my first, couple months of the business. And he's still a client today. He's my homie. I love Aldo. Shout out to him. But it taught me in that moment, like, I need to be able to adapt. I need to
Yes, absolutely.
be able to go with the flow and not be so rigid and just talk
So
to
important.
people. Like, just talk to them, be open, be honest, and just be a human being, really. So that was a very valuable lesson for me. And like you did, I cold outreached emails. I even did some calls. If I didn't get an email back, I would try to call. Didn't get a lot of responses back. There were a couple restaurants actually that.
Did you leave voicemails or?
Yes.
Okay.
I did leave voicemails. Yeah, a lot of people just didn't reach out. Not interested. Like a lot of small businesses. So I think like their perspective is either couldn't afford it or weren't interested in it. Feel like they didn't need it. So it was tough. And you reach out to 50 people and you just hope to get one yes. That's it.
Yeah.
And at the time I was taking everything from family portraits, like couples shoots, and like I was even accepting, like there were a couple of people who reached out to me to ask them to make a slideshow for their grandmother who passed away.
Okay, actually, I've gotten requests like that.
I did a slideshow. I was taking everything because you don't say no in the beginning. And it was all really great experiences, and it wasn't necessarily what I wanted to be doing. It wasn't the end goal, but I knew it was just going to help get me there and get me some experience and, possibly add to the portfolio. Maybe not the grandma slideshow, but possibly. You never know. After that, I did have some luck with, like, my inner circle was really there to support me and, like, spreading word of mouth and all of that. And some of my clients would talk to other clients. And I did get lucky in that way where I did, in the community of the town that I was living in previously, I got a couple word of mouth clients, which was keeping me pretty busy.
Luck plays a role.
It
huge
does.
Role.
It really does.
It's not going to work unless you're not lucky.
Right. And it's luck. And then it's also a lot of hard work. Like, you built your business on reaching out to a ton of people, putting a lot of effort into that reaching out standpoint and client nurturing, and just really never giving up. You cannot be lazy when you're starting a business. You have to be willing to put in hours of work at night, on the weekends, late nights editing. Like, there's so much that you need to be willing to do, especially in the beginning when you're establishing yourself.
Yep,
you have to
sure.
build up trust with people, and it is not easy. It was one of the hardest things ever. And there was a time where I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this. I won't be able to make this work. And then you just hang on for that little bit longer and something comes through, and you just have to have faith.
So I want to kind of flip it around a little and talk about inbound leads. What is your experience been? I have some examples of like kind of passive inbound. So social media marketing is basically what I was trying to get at.
Okay.
Like, working on my social media has led to people seeing my stuff and reaching out to me. Mm-hmm. So like in terms of inbound leads in general, what has been your experience with that?
So I have a unique experience of a few of my inbound leads that have come through have been through my previous world of where I was working.
Right.
So a couple of those clients expressed interest to work with me again from past experiences. And that helps because they knew the kind of person I was.
Right.
They knew they liked working with me. They knew what the product was going to look like. So that helps a lot. And that's not something that necessarily will happen to everyone, especially if you didn't previously do this and this is like your first experience with doing photography and video. So, and I didn't use any examples of work really from my past job. I wanted a clean slate. So nothing that I really did before was something that I was like, here's something I've done before. I wanted it to be mine.
I can relate to that.
You know?
I wish I didn't do what I did. Like, I wanted to do that really badly because when I, branched off and did my own thing, I wanted to, only be associated with this. But I did end up using a couple old examples from the previous stuff.
Which is okay too.
It is okay. And like, I had permission to. So like, it was
There
fine.
you go. Yeah, that's a big thing too.
So like, there was no real issue. It was just a personal thing. Like,
Yeah.
did I want to do it or not?
Yeah.
But instead, I created a lot of like spec work to replace all that.
There you go.
I did like
my God, yeah.
four things for free just to show off and prove to myself and to the clients that I can make this type of stuff.
Yeah, that fitness shoot we did, that was dope. That came out
Oh, yeah,
really good.
I totally forgot
The
about
water
that,
bottles.
to be honest. My brother actually used that water bottle.
No way, even after I dented it and broke it?
Yeah.
Aw. At least it was at the end of the shoot, guys. Yeah. No, your product stuff that you do is so cool. I'm
Thank
obsessed with it. I need to actually, next time you do one, will you invite me so I can watch?
Yeah.
Because it's so cool.
It's like I can't really do them by myself anyway. So
Okay,
like, I always
amazing.
need more than two hands.
Yes. Okay. All right. We'll have to plan that.
Yeah, no,
We'll
actually,
see what we can do.
that's a good segue because a lot of my product stuff has been spec work, but one of them was not. And it was an inbound lead.
Aha.
Oh, no, sorry. It was now outreach.
Okay.
But it was Instagram DM.
Nice.
Funny story though.
Slid in the DMs.
Last year, similar to you talked about going to Iceland, I went to Iceland last year. When I was there, I was drinking a lot of energy drinks to stay awake.
Oh my God, the time change. Got me
So
fucked up.
every time I went to one of these Icelandic gas stations, I would try new energy drinks because they had a lot of things I've never even seen before.
Interesting.
So I just kept trying new ones.
Okay.
But one brand I kept gravitating towards was this brand called Noko. Never heard of them until I was in Iceland. Started drinking them. They tasted good. So I was like, all right, I tried a bunch of flavors. Came back. Months passed. I found that they had a international Instagram account, but also a US branch.
Nice.
Their US branch was super small, like 20,000 followers. I sent them a DM and it turned into work.
Nice.
And I was like, it's just a full circle thing. I was literally drinking them in Iceland and now here I am working for them.
And that's, I'm sure, something you included in your DM to them.
Yeah.
Your
Absolutely.
energy drinks literally got me through this trip and through this time
Exactly.
change and gave me the energy to keep going.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I ended up doing like some product photos for them and I'm actually in discussion now to kind of do a round two.
Nice.
So
Oh my
it
God.
panned out.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, the outreach is necessary. And you love when it happens like that, when it's something that you know, like, and trust, and you know that they're interested in kind of working with you too.
So then I
It's
guess
really
going back to social media, like, as you know, like my personal account, I recently just did a huge batch of like rebranding basically
Yeah.
and just showing that I have a cohesive brand and stuff. In doing that, it drew clients to me.
Nice.
So like I see value in, I mean, I've always seen value in social media because I create the stuff for my clients. So obviously I believe in it.
Yes.
But, actually acting upon it and doing it for myself, it works.
Yeah,
So
for
like,
sure. It definitely, I think, shows a level of professionalism where someone can go to your page. I think a lot of people create. One client that I recently worked with for her birthday party / gender reveal, she said she was searching videographers on Instagram in the area, and that's how she found me.
Yeah.
Your
exactly.
personal online brand matters 100%. And I think that goes for people. I think that goes for businesses. If you are someone who's trying to sell something to people, a service, a product, if you're not online in some way, shape, or form, I don't care what kind of business you have, you're not going to do as well as the competitor that's actually doing the thing that you should be doing. You're not going to be as standoutish. You're not going to come off as professional. And the people who do that are going to win, I think. That's my opinion.
Yeah. I'm going to try and like do more social media stuff as like a passive outreach.
Yeah,
So I'll be doing my
yes.
email stuff and DMs as like the active outreach, but I'll be posting still fairly consistently, hopefully,
Yeah.
throughout this
And
year.
it doesn't have to be all the time.
No.
You don't have to post
I will
every
never
day.
be posting every day ever
No,
again.
you don't have to do that. It doesn't have to be that aggressive depending on your business. I know TikTok, people say you have to post at least once a day to get any sort of following, but I'm not really like, I'm not on the TikTok
I just
trend.
I can't talk about TikTok at all because I'm
It's
not
an-
knowledgeable in that
It's its
realm.
own animal.
Yeah.
I go through waves where I try to post once a day and then I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I don't know. Content creators, listen, you make fun of the influencers, but it's not easy what they do. It's a lot of posting.
No,
It's very time consuming.
like as a videographer and as a ex content creator wannabe, I'll add that.
No.
Like
No.
I understand the actual amount of work that the famous and like full-time influencers put into the content they create.
Yes.
The everyday viewer who just like doom scrolls and sees everything.
Yep.
They have absolutely no idea.
Zero clue.
And like, yeah, they make fun of them. Mm-hmm. It is a true full-time job.
It is.
They're working extremely hard.
They are. And they're getting paid for it. So
Yeah.
good for them. I know people who get paid like $1,000 a post. Like, that's crazy.
Yep.
Food influencers nowadays, restaurants are paying them to go to their restaurant and post about it.
That'd be nice.
Wild. You get to eat
I get
food.
some free food too. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. Crazy. I guess to round out like my whole kind of process, mine still very much is evolving. So
Right.
I'm learning every single day. There are things that aren't currently working that I'm trying to fix. And one thing that's been especially hard for me is I moved from Western Mass to Worcester recently. Millbury, technically. I live in Millbury, which is right outside Worcester. And even though it's only an hour away, it's been pretty difficult for me to kind of establish a base in a new area. So that's one thing I'm trying to work on is like, how can I break into this market? And one of the things that I love about where I'm at right now is obviously I'm right in Worcester. I'm 40 minutes from Providence. I'm 40-ish minutes from Boston.
Honestly, no. Worcester's a good location.
It's
You have
such a
those
good location.
three notable cities.
Yeah, and I can still service my clients in Western Mass. Like, so I'm working with my friend Dylan on creating a little bit of a marketing strategy to help me out with just breaking into these new markets. I've done outreach to a handful of businesses in Worcester, and I don't think I have had a single like business client in Worcester. It's pretty sad.
It's hard. Like I experienced that to an extent also because most of my clients prior were in Rhode Island.
Oh yeah.
I was like more well known in a different state
Yeah.
than I
Yep.
am now. So like
Yep.
the past 8 months, I've had to reestablish myself geographically to the greater Boston area. And yeah,
Yep.
that's difficult.
Very hard. Yeah. So I think, it's just a matter of, I haven't necessarily made the time to really dig into establishing myself where I am now. And I say that very intentionally. I have not made the time because luckily my clients that, I've been with for a while are still using me and I'm still, busy in that sense. And I'm very grateful for that. But
Right.
it's a struggle to kind of do all of these things and juggle all these things at once. You're supposed to be doing that kind of back end stuff, like working on your website and working on your marketing. And the client is always in my experience, the client is always going to come first. Like, got to get those projects done. You got to take care of your clients because that's how you get new clients and have good experiences. So, and on the other hand, if you're reaching out to a client and you're talking to them and you're not getting a good vibe, I will never force that to fit. I'm never going to be the person that is going to like change who I am or change something significant about my process to make a client fit or like significantly reduce a price. There are certain instances where I will do some of those things, but if you're not getting the vibe, then it's not going to work out. And you have to be willing to accept that. Not everyone's going to be a right fit for you.
I 100% agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think to round out my stuff, I think the only thing really is like I'm trying to focus on the SOPs, as you say, like the standard operating procedures. So pretty much that process I walked through earlier, I think personally I've gotten to a point where I'm comfortable executing this process. I think I might need to fine tune it a little bit more, but I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. And the reason I'm doing this is because in the future I do want to have a team. And once I establish these procedures, it's a lot easier once I've nailed them down for me to teach them to my potential new team members to be like, okay, this is the standard process that we're going to be using for this type of operation. Step by step, here it is. Very easy for them to replicate. It's nothing that like is personal to me. Everything that is in this standard procedure, anyone can learn. So that's like what I'm trying to put an emphasis on. Just everything that I'm structuring my business around is like teachable things to be ready for, training my teammate members.
Yeah, that's a great point. I don't know if I necessarily have any intention to scale to the point of having employees, but you never know. Right now, I'm cool with where I'm at, and I'm cool with collaborating with other creative people like you on bigger projects and kind of putting a bunch of really awesome brains together to come up with a really awesome end product. I think I just said really and awesome like 75 fucking times.
No, yeah, I agree. Like in the short term, for sure.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm doing. Like I have a handful of projects in the past 2 months and the next couple months that you'll be helping on, like a group of us will be on, like just working with people collaboratively. I want the majority of my projects for this year to be with a team of people, not my employees, just like other collaborative people.
Yeah. People who like you already know and trust and
Yeah, I mean, I'm being very intentional with who I'm working with now.
Yeah.
So
I'm honored.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I choose you for a reason.
Aw, I love that. That's amazing. Let me ask you this. When you do get the client, right? What is your like perfect best case scenario for booking them in terms of like, I've had clients where they come to me and they say, we want to book this yesterday. And then I have clients who are, more chill. So like, what's your best case scenario?
I guess I would say it would depend on like the project scale, but let's just say it's not like some massive project. It's like an average sized thing where it can all be done in like one day. If I was to have like the first discovery call with them today, I would want to have their actual production day roughly 3 weeks from now, like 15 to 20 days out. Gives us enough time to have a little bit of back and forth, reviewing proposals, hopping on more Zoom calls, phone calls, nailing down the details, logistics, who's involved, whatnot. Yeah. But I think, a little more than 2 weeks, 3 weeks is ample time to get most projects planned. Yeah. I mean, I have other things that are like way in advance that are like, I don't know, 5 weeks out plus, even longer than that sometimes. That just they involve a lot of people. Or they involve a lot of like people to approve.
Right.
Like we need to wait for like the higher ups to be like, okay, is this good? Is this good?
Budget approval and all that. Yeah. Yep. I feel that. I do not like to rush. I like to have some sort of a plan. I like to go into a shoot with some sort of like a shot list or, what their goals are for the shoot and something that we've discussed well in advance to make sure that the end product is great. Because the more that you prepare, the better the outcome will be, obviously. And sometimes I feel like clients that want to rush things, it's just like, it adds just that much more stress to the situation. Some of my regular clients, I'm able to work with a little bit more on the fly. And it's a mutual trust of, I can trust that they wouldn't spring anything on me that I wouldn't be able to handle. And in a similar fashion, they know that I'll be able to kind of go on the fly with it. Like, for example, Jeff, who owns Continuum Performance Center in East Longmeadow, shout out Jeff. He's not only an amazing client, but also like a huge mentor to me and friend in just life in general. And he texted me before our last shoot. Like, this was a few hours before the shoot. He said, "Can you either bring or buy 1 pound of spaghetti on your way in today?" This is a gym. What he wanted to do with a pound of spaghetti, I had no clue, but I didn't ask any questions. I just went with the flow. I showed up with a pound of spaghetti. And sure enough, he found some genius way to correlate that between the muscle fibers and fascia in your tissue. Like I trusted that he knew he had a plan for it and it wasn't going to be anything too crazy. So that kind of thing is just, sometimes it works, but most of the time I like to have a plan.
How do you approach like the collaborativeness of your projects? Do you tend to basically do what the client says and follow their vision, or is it like all on you to show up and it's you in charge of everything and you just hope that they approve, or is there some form of collaboration?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it depends on the client. Usually there are some clients that come to me and they're like, I have no idea what I want this to look like. And there are other clients who will say, this is our vision. This is what we need to get. And we just need you to tell us how to execute it the best way. And I feel like I've been lucky in a lot of ways where the clients I've worked with have been very interested in what my professional creative opinion is on it. And sometimes I've had to say to clients, if they have a very specific vision, I've had to say, I don't think that's going to come out very good. Here's what I would do instead. Yeah. And I'm not going to, if I truly think that something isn't going to come across in a good way, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, no, I will not.
It's my job.
I'm not going to create something that I know is not going to work for you.
Yeah. Why would I want to make myself look bad too? You know?
True.
Like, we're all going to look bad. Who wants that? No, like, I'm going to tell you if something's not going to look good. I'm going to tell you as a female, like, if your hair is looking crazy, I'm going to tell you. If you have something in your teeth, I'm going to tell you.
Yep.
It's my job to make you look good and to make the product the best that it can be. So I'm very vocal about that stuff for sure.
So I guess you would lean towards more of like your vision or, okay.
Yeah. No, I always want to take into account what the client wants and what their vision is. But if it's looking like it's going to go in the direction of maybe they have a vision for it and the way that they're picturing it executed isn't exactly going to complete the vision in the way that they want it, that's when you need to speak up and say, I think if we do it this way, it might get X, Y, Z points across a little bit better, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's a collaborative effort. And then there are some people who have fantastic ideas right out the gate. And I'm like, yes, I'm on board. Whatever I can do to support you in doing this, like, let's go. I'm ready. But I think most of the time it is collaborative, which I like.
Yeah,
I like it a lot.
I do too. And I think for me, it's similar. Like it varies. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of times where like some of the questions I ask in those like base questions is, can you send me an example of a video you like, or like maybe your competition's videos. Mm-hmm. Like if they have a style that they already have in mind, then it's a lot easier to just be like, okay, we can easily emulate this.
Yep.
So that's more just like following their vision, and I'm fine with that.
Yep.
But then there's other times like last week when we worked on this project together. It was not my vision at all. Mm-hmm. I was definitely more so just like the camera operator. I was not the director.
We were bodies.
More or less. Like, let's be real.
But we also provided very valuable input during that. I remember one part specifically where I was just like,
yeah, no. Like the small details are the things that they weren't able to notice. Oh, yeah. So that's where we stepped in.
Yep.
But the overall vision they had prepared, the storyboard, they took care of. Something that awesome. I do from other clients, but they just handled that type of stuff. So we just stepped in. I kind of shed off the director role, gave that to them. And, whenever I was filming stuff, I would always kind of be looking over my shoulder like, you good with this? Like, are we good here? Like,
important to show. And not all projects are going to be like that, but in this one specifically, the details were very important. Yeah. And we took it very seriously and made sure to show them.
But then there's other clients where I'm given full creative control.
Yes.
And I love that.
Me too.
Like when they're like, do what you need to do. Whatever you need, just let me know.
Say less.
Awesome. Like,
I love it.
that's when you can just have fun, be creative, push the boundaries, do whatever you want. And honestly, most of the time, those come out the best
Yeah, for sure.
because I don't feel limited in any way.
Yep. Yeah, it's just like different types of clients, different procedures. Bigger companies, I feel like oftentimes will have more of that vision and more specifics.
Yeah, I do tend to, like, during this whole process, I will always push the collaborativeness though. Like, I emphasize to them that I like to work collaboratively. I think for the like coordinator stuff you help me with, I'm sure you've probably heard me even vocalize that
Yeah.
to her.
Yes.
But like in the process on these calls, yeah, I always talk collaboratively, always share the storyboards and stuff, let them kind of let them involved in the process. Even though I may be making the storyboard, they're always involved.
Yep, for sure. Yeah.
That's pretty much all I got.
That was great. Yeah. I feel like we bounced a lot of ideas off. That's pretty much the process. It's not one size fits all in any circumstance. I don't feel like there's ever been a time where I've felt comfortable to copy and paste. It's pretty situational. And we both come from a place where we like to personalize things, and that's a big part of our brand, I feel like, is
Yeah, absolutely.
every situation is unique. Every person, every business deserves to be treated as its own entity. And I think that's what makes us stand out to other maybe like bigger companies or other people in general is, you know, that personal touch is really important to us in a way.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay.
So with that being
was
said,
great.
that's the end of this episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're watching us on YouTube, hi.
Hello.
So yeah, we will see you in the next episode.
We'll see you in the next episode. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at The Humble Hustle and YouTube at The Humble Hustle as well, Spotify. And if you're a creative, if you're an event planner, if you're in any sort of industry like that, we have a forum where we want you to share your stories, the good, the bad, the ugly. We're going to do an episode where we read and share some of these stories. We will keep them anonymously if that's what you'd like. And we just want to hear, what are some of your experiences that have been in this field, good or bad? So let us know if you have anything that you want to share. And with that being said, we will see you next time. Bye, guys.